Oh, hey there. Do you ever want to just get more hang time on your punts? If you're like me, that's something that you're definitely probably interested in. But one thing you might notice is that when you're trying to get more hang time on punts, a lot of things are gonna start going wrong for you. Well, that's why today I've got a guide for a very certain type of punt that is meant to maximize hang time while still getting a pretty solid quality amount of distance to it. So let's just get right into it, okay? So, you see this guy back here? He is currently trying to hit a higher hang time punt, but he's struggling. Everything he's hitting keeps being super driven, low, and when he raises his drop and tries to swing straight up, he hits that miss hit, that one that kind of goes up and turns and goes back down. Now, as a general rule, I don't think this guy's bad at punting, and the reality is, this guy might be a lot like you, because he is me and I am him. And I was struggling with the same stuff. So I wanted to figure out what's a way that I could just flip the switch and start hitting a higher ball that's going to not go as far for one specific situation. And that is when we're at the 35 to 50 yard line. I want to hit a high punt, but I'm not trying to put it so far that it goes over the returner's head and bounces in for a touchback. So here are some problems with how I was swinging. So, the first problem that this guy's gonna have as he's trying to swing, and the thing that I try to do differently, is first and foremost, we're looking at the shoulders. Yes, the shoulders. As a general rule, it's actually very good to try to keep your shoulders going downfield while you're punting. What this is gonna do is actually eliminate a lot of miss hits that are gonna go straight up the elevator shaft, come right back down, and a lot of those ones that kind of are that half turn that fade to your inside. So if you're a righty, it's gonna fade to your left. If you're lefty, it's gonna fade to your right. This is going to consistently provide you with a good B ball, a good A ball, a nice ratio punt that is going to take you very far through college, through high school. Heck, I think even a lot of pros utilize this method and is not bad by any stretch. I just wanted to try something a little bit different. So what I was working on and what this Isaac is working on is doing something that is the cardinal sin of punting. I am going to pull my shoulders back. Well, that's coming with a bit of an asterisk, because the reality is I'm trying to set my shoulders at a specific angle, so that way, that is the angle that the ball launches out of my hips. You see, the thing is that when I'm punting a football, I tend to just keep my shoulders down and then just try to get my hips at a good enough angle that I can kick the ball. For me, I like to envision that there's a nice little side plane that goes through my hips, and when I'm trying to drive the ball, I want that plane to be just nice and flat, and then if my hips are trying to go for like a nice ratio ball, they're slightly tilted up, and then when I'm trying to go for more of a hang time ball, they're even more tilted up. This is something that's hard to visualize for a lot of guys, and it's something that's even harder to pull off once they can visualize it. So trying to play around with this little concept that my shoulders and hips are becoming connected has really helped me get a lot more fluidity in this specific concept, because you see, the higher your hip tilt is as it goes up, the better of a launch angle that ball is going to get. So, to me, what's made this so revolutionary is that instead of thinking about what my hip angle is going to be as I'm striking the ball, instead I'm having a shoulder-centric approach, meaning that as I'm getting into my plant step, I'm thinking about what angle I want my shoulders to be at, and then using that as a firm launching point for how I'm kicking the ball. So on my regular schmegular everyday punts, all I'm doing is just keeping my shoulders nice and aggressive and not changing anything. But as soon as I'm starting ready to go back and hit some punts, I'm thinking about tilting back to maybe if this is 90 degree, trying to go to maybe a 65 degree angle, or maybe even like a 45 degree angle if I'm getting very aggressive and trying to hit an absolute moonshot. Now, there is a caveat here, and that's when you're going for these angles. The trick is you get to that 45 degrees right as you get into your plant, but then you hold it. So you're not losing those aggressive shoulders. You're more so making sure that you set them at the angle you want to and then pull them forward. This is to avoid one very important thing, and that is when you punt a ball and you just keep pulling your shoulders back and send it straight up to the NASA space station and right back down at the line of scrimmage. Now, there's some things that I didn't talk about that aren't directly related to this thing, but you have to think about when you're punting and thinking about your shoulders. And the first one that was super important to me was thinking about how my foot makes contact with the ball. Let's assume my hand is a ball for a second, okay? When your foot is trying to hit it, what angle do you think your foot's trying to go through? Are you trying to kick through the ball this way? Are you trying to kick directly up under the ball? Are you trying to maybe slice through it and kick through it at an angle to create that spiral? This is something you need to think about. And when I'm working on this style of punt, my mind is on a exactly one thing. I am trying to very delicately just release that ball and see my foot hit directly straight up through the gut of the ball. I notice that when I'm doing this, I get way more of those perfect little wobbly spirals that just kind of float on the way down, and much less of the nosedivey ones. So my thought process here is to limit any amount of downhill swinging I can do, try to keep my drop as close as I can without jamming myself, and then focus on exploding directly up through that football. And on top of that, another thing that I really wanted to think about while I was doing all of this is my drop timing. When am I supposed to drop the ball? My big cue, my big thinking point, the big thing that I was working on is just trying to drop the ball right before I plant. Now I've already been told I've got a very late drop. It's something that I think can work against me with hitting drivers, but really works in my favor in this type of punt, which is trying to hold that ball as long as physically possible and wait for my shoulders to go ahead and start pulling back before I start dropping it. When I do that, I find it's a lot easier to time up this specific type of punt. All right. So, last but not least, situationally, when do we want to use this punt? I'm thinking one thing. When I'm at the 35 to the 50-yard line going in with a slight breeze up my back, that is the prime time to use it. No breeze, a slight crosswind is fine too. I think when there's a wind in your face, you want to wait until you're maybe at the 42 to 50 to use it. That 35, I mean, you can still force a fair catch. You can still hit a 40-yard punt. And what I found is that when I'm setting my shoulders and then being aggressive with keeping my shoulders at the angle I want them at, my miss hit is not as short as I thought it'd be. I've hit plenty of 40 to 42 yard miss hits that are still like 4.6 to even 5.1, 5.2 on a miss hit, which is crazy. So this is something that I think everybody should be looking at. It was a very interesting study for me to do, where I'm thinking with my shoulders first, I'm trying to get them set, and I'm trying to just hit the best ball that I can out of that situation. And situationally for a punt, I think it gets you some really insane hang times. All right, and it's a sign of good faith. I'm gonna hit 4 punts right now, right over my shoulders here, just going for this style of punt, okay? This is just to prove that this thing is an insanely consistent style of punt. It's really good, and honestly, I just love hitting this type of ball. All right, all things considered, that actually was a pretty bad set for what this punt can do. I know it. The ground out here is very mushy and very squishy, so it's hard for me to get consistent. I might try to hit one more set for you guys, but anyway, I hope you're having an amazing day. And peace! All right, I kind of suck today, but that's whatever.